The truth has been revealed about the firing of Jim Montgomery from Don Sweeney and Cam Neely as they spoke out today about the firing. I'm going to be going over everything that they said, and a lot of Bruins fans may not be happy with their answers. But like I said, we got a lot to go over here in today's video. And before we do, I am still sick, so I do apologize if I'm still a bit nasally. But before we get into it as well, we know 70% of you guys watching right now are not subscribed to the channel. If you're looking for a spot to get all of your Boston Bruins news, you're in the right spot. Hit the sub button, join us here on the channel. We're covering everything Boston Bruins. Sport's been absolutely incredible lately, and now we have a brand new revamped Bruins team, and you're not going to want to miss what updates this team has to bring you. But without any further ado, let's get into it today. The truth has been revealed by Don Sweeney, by Cam Neely, by both of these guys as to why Jim Montgomery has been fired. Now, you're going to bear with me in this video. I have a lot of quotes from both of them, from some players, and we're going to have to go over a lot and reading a lot here in this video. But first off, we're going to start off with the original, the kind of basic tweet here from Joe Haggerty. Don Sweeney said that there were contract offers to Jim Montgomery in the summer ahead of the season, so he didn't second-guess Bruins management allowing his head coach to go into the season as a lame duck in the last year of his deal. And very interesting to see that Don Sweeney had some offers that were on the table for Jim Montgomery. We knew that there was negotiations going and nothing could have been reached yet, but the fact that we're seeing this come out now, that there were contracts there that Jim Montgomery didn't accept, were very interesting. It would be a very interesting piece as well to see if the price was not high enough for Jim Montgomery, what it may be or what it may have been, and I'm sure we'll get some information on that at some point. But right now, it is just a very interesting one to see that there was negotiations that didn't go past a certain amount from the Jim Montgomery standpoint of things. Now, we know his record was fantastic with the Bruins, and ultimately the success from the playoffs and in this season were really the big part of why we're not seeing him still in this team, still head coach of this team. But as we get into the quotes here from Jim Montgomery, or Don Sweeney's story as well, this is what he had to say based on the firing. It came from our team not performing to the level of expectations that we have grown to appreciate. The players themselves have not, or have to understand they're not where they need to be. Going on further with this, and bear with me as well, like I said, I got a lot of screenshots coming here. He said, we're either going to get back to our standard, or there is going to be continued changes across the board. So, to me, the way that Don Sweeney was going about this interview, going about this media availability, and the fact that he's having to say this really didn't mention much about Jim Montgomery at all. And it really seems like he's blaming Jim Montgomery for the lack of success. You know, he's been saying a lot as well about, yes, the team is taking blame for it as well. And of course, as I mentioned in the past few videos, a big reason of this firing was because it's easier to fire the coach midseason than fire an entire team, make so many trades and whatnot like that. Like, a coaching change is the easiest thing to do mid-season, and that was no doubt a big part of what was seen here in the past few days for Jim Montgomery, for Don Sweeney, and for the Boston Bruins. But as we continue on with this, Don Sweeney as well, like, he's talking about the players, kind of saying that, you know, we hopefully got one bad apple out of the batch, and hopefully that changes everything. But the fact that he's not directly putting the Jim Montgomery in the not the target of things, but in the spotlight, it's very interesting to see whether he blames or doesn't blame Jim Montgomery. And going forward with a few more screenshots here as well, this one comes from Michael Sullivan, and this is what he had to say about Elias Lindholm and Nikita Zadorov. And he said, we want to see another level out of them as well. And going on to say this based on the thought of, or someone was asking the question of what he thought about these two this year and their kind of lack of success so far. And having this as well, he says he wants to see another level out of them. He's kind of acknowledging here as well that Jim Montgomery hasn't done the most ideal job in figuring something out for these guys. Now, I know that Jim Montgomery can't do anything, and I don't think that's a viable option to blame Jim Montgomery for these two players' success or lack thereof success, but we've seen Elias Lindholm in many different opportunities this season. We've seen him on the first line. We've seen him on the second line. Many different line mates, and we haven't seen anything going for him at an extreme amount just yet. It could be much worse, so we have to keep that in mind, but the fact that we haven't seen the optimal success, the success that we've been looking for, is definitely something that hopefully we can see Joe Sacco bring to this lineup. And as well as Nikita Zadorov, another one where he's just taking way too many penalties, not playing great on the defensive side of things or the offensive side of things, turnovers, kind of everything piling up against Nikita Zadorov has been happening so far. And once again, that is not to blame from Jim Montgomery. This is not anything he could have done. If he would have done anything, he would have made them stop taking penalties, but it's not something a coach can do. All you can really do is inform him, give him a heads up, and we've seen that multiple times from Jim Montgomery in that whole situation as well. And going on to another quote that we have here, this was from Don Sweeney talking about Joe Sakic. He said, he's well equipped to lead this group. His staff will be as it is for right now, but I don't rule out that we won't bring in somebody to complement this group. So another very interesting quote here from Don Sweeney, kind of discussing that we're going to see some more additions to this coaching staff at some point. Now, we know that Joe Sakic could be a great coach. His NHL record is not the best, but he wasn't in the right situation there either. The Colorado team that he was coaching, not the greatest, but this Bruins team should be much better than what it is, and is much better than that Colorado team. But the fact that we're seeing Don Sweeney come in and say that we're probably going to be adding more to this coaching staff makes me kind of think as well that he don't have his full trust in Joe Sakic and the rest of this coaching staff. Now, of course, I don't expect this team to be on a direct 180, turn this team around, go on a 10-game winning streak or nothing, but a new voice in the locker room is something that we've been kind of waiting for, something that we've all really been hoping to see work out. And, whether that was with or without the firing of Jim Montgomery, someone new in the locker room seemed like that needed to happen, and that's what we've seen now. But Don Sweeney still says we may see some more people in the realm of the locker room and seeing what's going on here. And going on to our next screenshot as well, this is a very big one here from Cam Neely, a very interesting quote as well. And this is what he had to say based on the firing of Jim Montgomery. He says, I'm supportive of Don's decision to address our current play and performance. Neely added, Joe Sakic has a wealth of experience and knowledge of our roster and can help lead our team in the right direction. And it's familiar tone from Boston's management team, looking no further than the sentiment shared after the Bruins canned Claude Julien in February 2017. And this is what it was from the Claude Julien firing. These decisions are not easy. Don has my full support, Neely said in a statement after the Boston Bruins elevated Bruce Cassidy as interim head coach. I believe that we have a better team than our result date shows, and I also recognize that there are areas that we, as a group, need to improve upon. And kind of a broken record from Cam Neely, and I think that, he kind of knows that this was not fully on Jim Montgomery. I think that he kind of knows that we're potentially heading towards the end of him and Don Sweeney's tenure as GM and as president of the Boston Bruins. And having kind of this exact reaction, it almost seems like he's getting that written for him. It don't seem like this is a quote that Cam Neely has come out and said or created himself. And, we're seeing a lot of people in the eyes of the Bruins fans, Bruins community, putting their targets and setting their sights now on Don Sweeney and Cam Neely, kind of in the line of fire for the upcoming rest of the season and heading into the offseason. And I think that the next thing is going to be those two. We know the team on paper should be much better than it is. Obviously, they favored size over skill and speed, and we've seen that not work this season. They try to go back to the big bad Bruins style of hockey, which ultimately has not worked, and I think is kind of a washed out part of the NHL now, unfortunately, but the way that they built this team really didn't have a backup plan. Because of the AHL being so shallow, the depth of the Bruins not being the best, they were looking for a win now with the players they had and kind of disregarding injuries. They do have a lot of young players, but are they ready? Not yet. We've seen Georgi Merkulov come up, playing pretty good his first few games. We need to see more moves for younger players made to this lineup and more trades coming from guys who don't want to be on this lineup, I think is a big thing that we're all waiting for. And speaking of this as well, and speaking about players' discussions and reactions about Jim Montgomery, this is what Brad Marchand had to say on the topic. This is a reflection of our play. If we had done our job in here, he'd still be here. Feel terrible as a group. We let a good person down. And the locker room didn't want to see Jim Montgomery go. Obviously they want to find the success. They've been struggling, but Jim Montgomery, as I've mentioned, and as a lot of people are saying, is not the guy. It's not him. It's not his fault. It's not 100% on him. Now, obviously, are there a few things that he could have done to probably help this lineup a bit? Yes, and there's things that every NHL coach could do to help a lineup out a bit more than they're already doing. But he was not given any help from Don Sweeney, Cam Neely, in the way he built this lineup. They built this lineup, and frankly, not giving any options to move around the roster. So he was doing what he could in that situation, doing what many people have kind of been waiting for, and many people have been trying to do, and ultimately we saw how much lack of success came out of this. And heading on to another screenshot here, and as I mentioned, we got a lot here, so I do apologize for the rambling, but with Sweeney pulling the oldest trick in the book by pulling the plug on another coach, the cascade of criticism now turns to the individuals who crafted this roster. This is from Connor Ryan on Boston.com, I believe, as well. If you're going to look for the full article, I do recommend. It's a very good read for the kind of the situation going on right now. But Sweeney and co. deserve plenty of blame for shrinking speed and secondary scoring in favor of size and a stance that several individual career years in 23-24 will be the norm moving forward. We saw immediately, in the beginning of the offseason, the departure of Jake DeBrusk, the departure of Danton Heinen, the addition of Elias Lindholm, Nikita Zadorov. As those signings did look good, we know that there was going to be a lack of something that was going to be missing, and that was very evident, and has been very evident so far in this season, and continuing to be a big thing that we're lacking. We're lacking the depth of the secondary scoring, as you've seen that article say. There's been a whole lot missing from this Bruins team, and that's not to blame from Jim Montgomery. But the way that Don Sweeney's been talking about this, the way he's been kind of discussing the idea of firing Jim Montgomery, really didn't just, tell too much on what Jim Montgomery was doing. Didn't put too much blame on anybody else. And obviously, he said the team is to blame as well, but he's also kind of putting a lot of blame where it shouldn't be on Jim Montgomery. So let me know what you think about all of this. I do apologize like I said, for all of the rambling here. A lot of screenshots, a lot of quotes, and that's what we're going to see over the next coming days as well as this team kind of progresses into the Joe Sacco era. But let me know what you think about this move. Obviously, we had the streaming video yesterday. I got some opinions there, and I like that. But I wanted to kind of see now what you guys think about it. Sinking in, seeing how it works out, and these quotes from Don Sweeney. But that's all I got. If you did enjoy, give it a like, hit the sub button as well. But I'm signing out. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day. See you later.